you ever had a retro that kind of went like this? You and your team get in a room, everyone with the best intentions. You all are willing to approach the conversations in a blameless manner. You're not pointing fingers. You're not trying to throw anybody under the bus. And you identify areas that need improvement, whether it's in the team process, maybe it's some kind of management issue or product issue. Maybe you're just looking back and you're saying, I'd like to change the way we think about X, Y, or Z. Simple adjustments that you know are supposed to be a part of a good retro. The retro ends and you go back to work and nothing really changes at all. Again, everybody had good intentions, but for one reason or another, whatever you did in the retro didn't really pan out. Didn't really translate into any meaningful change at all. In today's episode, I'm going to give you 2 specific ways to improve the outcomes of your retros. Improve the likelihood that you're actually going to make changes. Now, this doesn't mean that just if you do these 2 things, that things will get better automatically. It does still require some kind of discipline to follow through. But there is likely a problem in how you are defining the retro outcome. If you think about any meeting that you attend as a type of process, and the process having some kind of input and output requires that the output be compatible with some other process. Think about it like the interface to the rest of your process. Specifically, if you're looking at retro, you want to have a good interface between your retro and the rest of your process, the things that it's trying to change. Very often, the kinds of things that we end up saying in a retro look something like this. We don't like the way that we do our deployments, so we should have somebody look into that. Or we're not really sure how we're going to make that thing happen, so maybe we should do some planning for that. Our alert channel in Slack is too noisy. We should do something about it. These are, hopefully, obviously, bad outcomes from retro. It's not that the assertions themselves are bad. You've identified important problems, perhaps, but the outcomes, the decisions for what to do about it, are not very good at all. Let's compare these to 2 other frameworks that we use for defining some kind of task. We can think about the SMART framework for defining goals. That's the specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound. These particular goals or adjustments that we're defining have none of these qualities. Maybe they have relevance, but that's about it. If we look at the way that we define something like user stories, typical user stories or tasks in a backlog, whatever your task management process is, pretty much all of them would require more than just do something about it. They might require something like acceptance criteria, or they might require some kind of technical specification that the team all agrees on. In any case, our retros, the outcomes from our retros, are often ignored for their specificity. And so I recommend that you do 2 simple things. 2 simple things. These are the tips that I have for you today to improve the outcomes from your retros. The first one, we're going to steal from the SMART framework, but we're just going to steal the S. Specific. What specifically are you going to do? If your alerts channel is too noisy, what specifically would you want to do about it? Or if your answer is that you just want to look into it, you're not really sure what you want to do about it yet, be specific about who and when. The more specific you can get, the more likely the outcome turns into a task that can actually be executed. It also avoids another problem when you're defining the problems of looking back retrospectively and just saying that you should be smarter next time. Sure, we don't say it in those words typically, but a lot of the time our retro outcomes sound something like, think further ahead next time, or maybe be more careful, take more steps, test more. These are all essentially in the same bucket, the endless treadmill of improvement, where your only answer to a problem tends to be some formulation of do better. So by being specific, we are trying to identify what can we do next time? What trigger should we pull, or what kind of process should we automatically assume when we get into this situation in the next round? And this brings us to our second tip, and that is to respect uncertainty. Another way of putting this is treat every outcome from a retro as an experiment. If we say, well, next time we should test better, we should do better, we should think further in advance, we should be more careful, there is no need for further adjustment. If we were to say, well, exactly how much should we test? The answer, maybe in the old retro version, is however much is enough to ensure that we're never going to have a problem. This is, of course, a fool's errand when it comes to software. No amount of testing can 100% guarantee that there are no bugs in your software. And so when we choose a specific adjustment, what we're doing is we're formulating a hypothesis. We're saying, we believe that if we were to have tested for one more day, that we could have prevented the problem. The important difference here, when you say next time we're going to test for one day, is that you are accepting that there's inherent uncertainty and that whatever adjustments you're making in your retro are experiments rather than fixes. When you experiment, you adjust one thing, you measure and you adjust and you measure, and you evaluate and choose better pathways iteratively. A retro does not perfectly and definitively provide the right boundaries for a given problem. It doesn't give you a prescription for a solution. It observes a problem, it reacts to the problem, and then it does it again and again and again. That is the point of doing regular retros. If your team does regular retros, this is the intention. Not to choose a singular big hammer, we're going to solve the whole thing, this sprint kind of solution. Instead, accept that uncertainty is a part of your job, it's a part of your life, it's a part of reality. And so, we make adjustments. We run experiments. And then we measure and we do it again. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of Developer Tea. I hope that in your next retro, you will make these two adjustments. 1, be specific. And 2, respect uncertainty. Turn those outcomes into experiments in that next retro. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this discussion, you almost certainly would enjoy further discussions in the Developer Tea Discord community. Head over to developertea.com/Discord to join today. Thanks again, and until next time, enjoy your tea.